And welcome in to another edition of A Closer Look. I'm your host, Dwayne Nelson, and with me is Tennessee State Representative Bud Hulsey, who represents the 2nd District of Kingsport. And glad to have you here as my guest this week on Closer Look.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. I'm glad to be here.
And retired Kingsport police officer, and you were on the job for how long?
36 years.
You'd probably still be there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, probably would.
It's just kind of one of those things, you get it in your blood, I guess, and it's just right there.
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I had the privilege of being a watch commander the last 25 years of my career, and that's a real coveted position, and I really did love it.
So, how have you made that transition, I guess, from one law agency to another law agency?
Well, I was real naive when I got elected. I thought, we've got a supermajority in the House. All these Republicans think alike. We'll be on the same page. We're all constitutional, all believe in the fundamentals, principles, and well, no. There's about 7 different brands of Republicans down there, and so I found that the arena I came out of is not all that different than the arena I went into.
I can understand. Now, you have, this is your 2nd term, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what made you decide, I guess, to seek becoming a state representative?
Well, without being cheesy, I really wasn't through with that kind of service. I really enjoy it. It's an incredible honor to be down there. It's an incredible honor to be elected by people. It really is. But I guess the fundamental bottom line reason, my mom is 88, my dad's 93, just moved them out here from Arizona. My mama says, do things that have eternal worth in the time that you have left. And that's kind of the way I look at it, Dwayne. It's, I think we live in some pretty perilous times in this country, and I think the sovereignty of states and the preservation of states and the people in those states is a very, very, very important thing. So I look at that as something that has eternal worth that I need to pursue as long as I'm supposed to, as long as the window stays open.
Now, your constituents obviously are your most important folks that you want to represent.
They are. You kind of do a cross-section, your first responsibility is to the Constitution of the United States, second responsibility is to folks in your district. That's who elected you. But of course, the things that you do have an effect on everybody else in the state. So you have to bear that in mind, that my representation is for my district, but what I vote on, what I run bills-wise, affects the whole state. And a lot of people don't understand, most folks do, I guess, that any law you pass affects somebody's liberty.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is, it takes away somebody's choice, So, having said all that, and you haven't asked me any questions, I'm just flapping my gums, but I try to keep in mind, and this is where my heart's at, I don't want to create a bunch of new law. Where my heart's at is to fix existing law that's either biased or unconstitutional or ineffective, doesn't work, and that's where my heart's at, to fix those things.
Now, you serve on several committees. Those are what?
I'm on the Agriculture Committee, Agriculture and Environment folks. Oh, they have a hard time with it. But Agriculture and Environment. Then I'm on the State Government Subcommittee, and I'm a Vice Chairman of the State Government Full Committee.
So that keeps you busy.
It does.
When you went in there first, I'm sure you ran into some surprises when you entered the chambers and started finding out everything didn't work so.
Yeah, my biggest paradigm shift, I suspect, was what I had said. I thought we'd all be on the same page, and I thought I would never have to argue fundamentals with other Republicans. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but I try to view things on a constitutional basis, and so a lot of times bills come up in my subcommittee, and I look at it and I say, well, what are you thinking? This is blatantly unconstitutional. This is biased. This is not fair. And of course, a lot of times in government, same as anything else, they'll say, a good's going to come out of this. The end will justify the means, and so it's those kinds of things. That was my biggest paradigm shift right there.
And I'm sure it was. In 2017, which is the early part of this year, Governor Haslam put together pretty much a controversial road and bridge building bill that raised taxes on gas, and that hadn't been done since '89.
89, yeah.
And what were some of the responses, I guess, that you got back from constituents? Because, I mean, it seems like everybody was upset. I was, I mean.
Oh, yeah. We took a lot of heat over it. Most of the legislators in this end voted against it, and I voted against it too. And I said, you cannot say these three things in the same sentence with a straight face. How do you do this? How do you say to people, you overpaid $1.7 billion? Oh, by the way, we spent all that, and oh, hey, we're going to raise your taxes $350 million on gas. You can't say that in the same sentence. I don't see how you do that. So Representative Hawk out of Greenville came up with a plan, and Speaker Harwell was for it at the beginning of that plan that said, yeah, we can give TDOT the money it needs with existing funds without raising taxes. And let's do that until we have no other choice, to fix it a different way. And it was a great plan. Actually gave TDOT more money than they would have gotten under the gas tax raise. But it didn't fly, but yeah, we got a little heat over it.
Is there any regrets from your fellow representatives concerning this?
On that position?
Yes.
No. They believe there was a righteous position and platform to stand on, and I do too. I know there was 67% of the folks in this district said no.
Right.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, we're a pretty conservative district compared to other parts of the state.
We are, and by the way, I found out that's where the big battle's at. The big battle in Tennessee, the fundamental battles are between urban and rural. Mm-hmm. That's a huge one. Urban people think different than rural people. Big towns like Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga think different than Kingsport does. And so representatives from those areas, of course, try to run bills to solve problems in urban areas, but what that does mess you up here.
Right.
So that's a big source of contention. It's a war all the time between that kind of thinking, urban thinking and rural thinking. There's another war people don't talk about, war between people that work and people who don't work.
Right. and it continues.
That's a big one, and it depends on which side of that fence you're on, how you view the role of government. If you don't work, you view government as somebody to take care of me. People get mad at that, but that's true. If you do work, you want government to stay out of your business and quit taxing you. Right. And so you got those two big philosophy wars that are huge, and they loom every time we're in session. Urban and rural, and folks that work and folks that don't work.
So it's kind of hard really to get everybody on the same page there.
It is. It's hard to bang out a bill that really solves a problem, is constitutional, is fundamentally right, but will satisfy both sides of that spectrum.
It's a tough job. It's hard to get 50 or 100 people to agree on the same thing. Now, you've tried for several years to have a person convicted of misdemeanor to be able to go before a judge and have the right to own a weapon restored. Yeah. And that bill has seemingly failed each year, but...
It did. The things that drives me on that bill is to me it's fundamentally wrong to deprive somebody of a constitutional right over misdemeanor for the rest of their life. Most people don't understand. You understand this, right, because you've been in that arena. I don't mean you committed the crime. I mean you've dealt on the law enforcement side. But most people don't understand, if you get convicted of a misdemeanor domestic violence, now keep this in mind before everybody starts screaming at me. A misdemeanor domestic violence is pushing, shoving, pinching, you know this.
Right.
Anything more serious than that's felony.
Right.
So here's a misdemeanor. If you've ever been convicted of it, you lose your Second Amendment right for the rest of your life. You cannot own a gun in your house, a rifle in your house. You cannot buy ammunition for the rest of your life. To me, that's fundamentally wrong. So particularly in Tennessee, when you can get expunction for a whole host of felonies. but you can't get it for this one misdemeanor. So I ran this bill, says you keep your nose clean for 10 years, and yeah, you can go in front of a judge and ask for expunction and get your Second Amendment right back. Well, you know who fought me? Wasn't the women's groups. That's who I anticipated. It was police. It was law enforcement. When I got the bill through the subcommittee, the first time got it up in the full committee, and a representative from TBI showed up to say what a bad bill it was. Homeland Security showed up to tell what a bad bill it was. The Post Commission showed up to tell what a bad bill it was. Department of Corrections showed up to tell what a bad bill it was. And the Chief of Police, Roush, out of Knoxville, drove all the way down there to tell what a bad bill it was. And I met with these people during the summer, and I said, tell me why it's a bad bill. Well, we just think you're putting a stamp of approval on, and we don't law enforcement folks working and had this expunged in their background, and corrections people, and of course, you know me. I said, well, we should get on one side of the fence or the other, because it's you sheriffs and chiefs showing up down to Post Commission every month asking for expunctions and waivers for people who committed those things. So anyway, it didn't fly. Law enforcement fought it more than anybody, and to me it's fundamentally flawed to have that set up in this state for several reasons, but here's another one. There's a girl I know in this district. When she was 18 years old, she slapped her fiance because he called her a bad name. Now she's 35, lives by herself, and she has no means to protect her life for the rest of her life because of the way we set it up.
We'll talk about that and other things that you have going on coming up on more Closer Look.